Alright, so this first video is basically the first part of today's lesson, which was how to go from the unit circle to the sine and cosine graphs. So basically I'm going to draw a unit circle. I'm going to go around and put the angle measures in degrees. So this is 0 degrees, or sorry, 0 radians, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and if you loop back around again, this would be 2 pi. And then you want to put your ordered pairs. So this is going to be 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and this is 0, negative 1. And basically you need to have an understanding that these ordered pairs represent the x is cosine and the y is sine. Okay? So basically when we talk about graphing sine and cosine, we're going to set up a table. So let's do sine first. And basically on sine, I know that the shape, it's kind of like this. Okay, so it has an x-intercept, then a max, then an x-intercept, then a min, then an x-intercept. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that, x-intercept. Then the max, x-intercept, then the min, and then again x-intercept. Okay, so basically for the ordered pairs, the input is the angle. So basically I'm going to open brackets for each of these, and I'm just going to rotate around the circle. 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. So that's what I'm going to put for the x values here. 0, pi over 2, notice I'm just going around the circle. Pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Alright, now for the output, or the y value, since I'm doing sine, I'm going to use the y values from the circle. So when the angle is 0, the sine is 0. When the angle is pi over 2, the sine is 1. When the angle is pi, the sine is 0. Here it's going to be negative 1. And here again 0. Okay. Basically from here we're just going to make the graph. So I'm going to do it a little bit further down because I will make another video later that has changing the a and b like we did in class. And basically here is your 0, 0. I'm going to go up 1 and down 1. So this is negative 1, this is positive 1. And then for your x-axis, you'll just want to use these x values in radians. So you have pi over 2, you have pi, 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. And basically at 0, we're at 0, 0. At pi over 2, you're going to be up at 1. At pi, you'll be back at 0. 3 pi over 2, you'll be down at negative 1. Sorry for writing into it. And then at 2 pi you'll be back at 0. So the graph looks like this. Okay, and remember it is periodic, so it will keep repeating in that pattern. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do cosine. And basically to do cosine, I'm going to still use the same angle measures from here. Okay, so let me set this up down here. I have f of x equals cosine of x. Now cosine has a bit of a different shape. It actually starts at the maximum and then has an x-intercept, minimum, x-intercept, and it goes back to the max value. So again, for your x values, you're going to just use the angles. So it's 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Now this time, because you're doing cosine, if we go back to our unit circle, you'll see here that cosine was the x values. So for example, when the angle is 0, the x value was 1, so the cosine is 1. So when the angle is 0, cosine is 1. And then go around the circle using the x values. So 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. Okay? Now how do I know those are maxes and mins? It's because of the y value. The max is the highest y value, which if you look at all the y values, 1 is the highest. The min is the lowest y value, which is negative 1. Now when I go to graph this one, it's basically going to start out looking sort of the same as sine, in the sense that you're still going to have the same 1, negative 1. You're still going to have pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. It's when you put the dots that they're going to be in different places. So at 0, you need to be up at 1, so you're actually starting here, and then 0, and then negative 1, and then back at 0, and then back up to 1. And so it kind of looks like this. Okay, so those are your basic sine and cosine graphs. You need to be able to do essentially all of that from your mind.